Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex Reed. This is my channel, Alex Reed. And today we are reading Wheelchair Accessible Part 18. I know, one more chapter after this. So sad. Anyway, but before I do that, like, subscribe, and comment down below whether you... Oh, Jesus. The microphone is sitting weird. Hello? Anyway, like, subscribe, comment down below whether it's recommendations or whether it's just saying hello, because I do answer both, all of the above. Come say hi, because I would love to say hi to you. But anyway, let's jump right into the video. Part 18. This was it. Today was the day of the big game. In a few hours, I could officially begin starting over. I would finally be on the path forward, choosing to be a better person, choosing to do the things that make me happy, choosing life. So much had happened over the course of the last year. My parents had their fight and complete destruction of my social life, hitting my lowest point, meeting Shauna, falling for Shauna, starting to mend things with my parents, and now we're here. It felt like this was a massive occasion. It felt like the end, but I knew it was really just the beginning. "Is that your family, Harris?" A voice I hadn't been expecting said from behind me. Will stood there, a few steps back, helmet tucked under his arm. His eyes only managed to stay on me for a second or two at the time, before he had to look away. I gave a small nod. "Yeah." He shifted his weight between his feet. "Cool," was all he ended up saying. But I wasn't sure what he wanted. We weren't buddies. He didn't chit-chat before games. He was obviously here for something, but it didn't seem like he was going to say it. Just when I decided this had been awkward enough and was turning to move towards the stands, Will finally opened his mouth. "You better be on top of your game today." I glanced over my shoulder, reading his intense expression. A month ago, my defenses would have gone up, taking this as a threat, but now that I knew what to look for, I could see the nerves that danced around on the edges of his eyes, so I just nodded. "I will be." Before I could step away, he blurted out, "Things turned out pretty bad between us." I didn't know what to say. That summed it up pretty well. "Yeah." He flexed his jaw, looking towards the field. I shouldn't have treated you like I did." "Oh, okay, so we're doing this now." I swallowed, knowing this was my chance to really say something he might hear. I shouldn't have said those things that I did, um, that while ago. That was wrong of me too. I'm sorry. Really." He nodded slowly. Our eyes met, and there seemed to be a certain level of understanding between us. For the first time, maybe ever. "So, are we cool?" "Yeah, we're cool." Will smiled. It may have been the smallest smile I'd ever seen in my life, but it was a real smile, before turning and joining the rest of the team. Huh. Maybe one day things could work out between us, too. Knowing I only had a few minutes before starting the game, I quickly jogged over to the stands to say hello to everyone. They were in the front row of the bleachers, so that Shauna could sit in her chair, and I went to her side. "What was that?" she asked as soon as I was close, gesturing towards the field. I shrugged it off, playing it cool. "We're cool." "You're cool?" she frowned. "But he beat you up. Like, a lot." "Yeah." "And he's a jerk." "Yeah." Shauna watched my face for a long moment before nodding, looking impressed. "All right, then. We'll have him over for tea sometime." Ryder caught my attention a moment later, and I stepped back to greet everyone, thanking everyone for coming. They fawned and gushed over me, asking for autographs, playing it up like I was a hotshot celebrity. As silly as it was, it did make me feel a little taller than I had been a couple minutes ago. I had never made a big deal out of people coming out to watch my games when playing. I was too focused on the game to look out to the bleachers anyway. It didn't make a difference who was there or who wasn't. So I had thought. But knowing these people were here for me, to support me, did put a different sort of energy into the air. I always wanted to play well, but today I really wanted to win. So when coach called for the team, in his booming voice, a buzz built its way from my legs into my chest, into my shoulders. Kick some butt, Ryer hooted, throwing his fist into the air. I will, for you, buddy. I laughed, knocking my fist against his, shooting a quick wink towards Shauna. I jogged back to the team, shaking out my arms while the coach gave us his usual pep talk. And then the referee blew his whistle and the game began. After a few downs, it was clear that this wasn't going to be an easy fight. The Bobcats were good, even better than when we had played them last. But as the team looked around the huddle at each other, it was obvious that we shared the same determination to win. I'm sure everyone had their own reasons for wanting it badly, but we were in it together. Will called some smart plays. Our throws were clean, catches nearly perfect. I think we might have played the best we'd ever played, but the scoreboard danced, fighting for the lead up to the final minutes of the game. Coach called a much-needed timeout. For the first and last time of my football career, I looked over to the stands to see my fans on the edge of their seats. Shauna met my eye and blew me a kiss, which I pretended to catch and pat against my chest. Her smile was big enough to see from across the field. With my own dorky grin, I turned back to the huddle, only to discover that the rest of the team had been watching our little exchange. I blinked, and there was a beat of silence until Will shook his head with a small smile on his face. "You cheesy loser," he laughed. "Totally wrapped around her finger," someone else chuckled. "Is that your girlfriend, Harris?" Al asked, leaning around me to see who I'd been smiling at. "Nice job." I eyed them for a moment, trying to get a read on what was happening, but the smiles weren't hostile. The teasing seemed nice. Maybe now that Will and I were working things out, the rest of the team was cool with me too. I ignored how ridiculous that way of thinking was, and instead chose to focus on feeling like I was part of the team again. "Thanks, Al," I chuckled. "She's a stunner." "Absolutely. Get your mind off the ladies," Coach barked. "You win this game, you'll be able to get all the girls you want." The team laughed together and then refocused on our plan for finishing the game. "Call the play, Graham." Will's forehead creased deeply, sweat dripping down his temples. He looked up, past our shoulders, and I thought he was maybe picturing a play out of on the field until I followed his eyeline to the stands. "The college scouts." "Hey," I said, catching his attention. "You've got this." He swallowed, gave me a tiny nod, and then said confidently, "Short right drive," putting his hands out in the middle. We gave one shout and then set up ourselves. As soon as the ref blew the whistle, everything went into high speed. Will snapped the ball back to Al, and then I was focused on blocking, holding off the Bobcat player on my right. I could hear the crowd cheering, and I hoped that meant that Al was making some serious distance. That guy had some wheels. With an extra shove, the Bobcat player had me on the ground, knocking the air out of my lungs, but it was useless. The stands had erupted with cheers, and I knew we had made it to the end zone. Someone from my team grabbed my hand, pulling me from the grass, knocking their helmet against mine. Celebration before running off. Everything after that happened in a whirlwind. The game finished, we shook hands with the other team, our fans flooded the field, and then Shauna appeared through the crowd of people and rolled up beside me. "You did it," she beamed. And maybe it was the pride that was oozing from her expression, or maybe it was because she just looked so dang pretty, but as I looked at her, my heart thumped a little harder. I pulled my helmet off and tossed it over my shoulder, making her laugh as I leaned in close. "You're sweaty," she whispered. "I don't care," I whispered back, tilting her chin up with my fingertips. "Me neither." And then I kissed her. I kissed her in front of an entire crowd of people who stared at us, and I didn't even care. The team around me hooted and hollered, suggestively slapping me on the back as they passed, but I just smiled against Shauna's lips because this was the start of our new beginning. I pulled away to catch my breath, looking into those clear eyes that have been able to see right through me from the very day we met. Those eyes that saw me, that loved me, that I loved right back, even though the noise of the crowd and music now playing through the field house speakers, I could hear little voices calling from the stands. Gross. Everyone can see you, you know. You're embarrassing. I told you he was her boyfriend. Laughing, I shook my head, giving Shauna one more peck on the cheek before leaving to get my things. This was it. I was free. Thank you, Mark, the kids chimed in, taking big licks out of their ice cream cones. They were already hyped from the buzz of winning the game, so the extra sugar was probably a bad idea, but too late now. No problem. I waved them off. Thanks for coming to cheer me on. I couldn't have done it without you. Obviously, Ty agreed. I rolled my eyes playfully, tossing an arm over Shauna's shoulder while she worked on her double scoop cone that we'd gotten from her favorite vendor. We'd all gotten a cone and then found a spot on the grass in the park together. The evening was cooling down and the day was coming to an end, but I couldn't have felt happier. I have something for you, by the way, Shauna said suddenly, half distracted by the brittle of her ice cream that was melting down the side of her cone. I sure hope it's a makeout session. She punched my arm. You've gotten way cockier since I met you. You know that? I chuckled. That was probably true. What do you get me? Money? A car? A new shirt that says Shauna's slave? You're being so weird tonight, she laughed, scrunching her nose. But I do like the sound of that shirt. She took another nibble off her cone. It's nothing fancy, just a little something. Please be more vague. You're annoying. Get used to it. She narrowed her eyes at me before turning away, watching our siblings chat happily together, laughing over something silly. It was nice to see them all in such a good mood, too. I couldn't stop smiling. All I could think about was my fresh beginning and, well, Shauna. Geez, my face hurt from smiling. Guess what? Shauna muttered. I turned around, already smiling at her side profile. Cynthia and I were talking the other day, and it was so sweet. She said she transformed her voice to match the pitch of her sister's. I hope one day I marry someone just like Mark. Really? Considering all I usually heard from anyone in the Reed family was insults, that was pretty sweet. I smiled, feeling a burst of affection for the little booger. I'm totally going to embarrass her with that for the rest of her life. Shauna's eyes widened. No, you can't. I wasn't supposed to say anything. She'd be so mad at me if she found out. I guess you shouldn't have told me then. I'll never tell you anything ever again. Hey, Cynthia, I called, drawing her attention from whatever Ryder was telling her so enthusiastically he needed to be waving his arms around like a madman. Mark, don't. Guess what Shauna told me? Smack. I got punched. In the face. Hard. Ow! All four kids winced at the same time, holding back their laughter and failing. They were practically rolling on the ground in seconds. Oh my gosh! Shauna gasped, her hands flying to cover her mouth. I didn't mean to punch you that hard. I carefully reached up to poke my throbbing cheek. Jeepers creepers, I muttered. Shauna's eyes were practically bulging out of their sockets. Who taught you to punch like that? You deserve an award. It was obvious by her expression that she was wrestling between feeling guilty and feeling proud of herself. Her nose pointed a little higher. I told you I had nice enough arms to fight someone for you. I will never doubt you again, I promise. She pressed her lips together, eyes flickering over my face. Are you okay? I snorted. I think I can take a punch by now, Shauna. It was just unexpected, especially coming from my girlfriend, especially when I was joking. I'm sorry. You're forgiven, I laugh, pinching one of her cheeks. After a minute, she shook out her wrist. My hand hurts. I'm not surprised. You think you got me better than willed it? She gasped dramatically and stared down at her hands like they were possessed. Who have I become? Maybe Shauna has super strength now, Ryder observed. She's Batman, Cynthia agreed. If she's Batman, that means Mark is Robin, Ty added. Looks more like a Joker to me, Evan mumbled with a smirk. Hey, I scowled. Could you guys lay off? Besides, you're going to compare me to a superhero? You have to admit, I'm more of a Captain America type, maybe even Thor. I flexed, just to drive my point home. Shauna pulled a face. I don't know about that. They are really good looking. I shot them all a glare as I stood up. You're lucky I like you. Oh, so we're back to only liking each other now. Well, you did just punch me in the face and call me ugly. All the kids laughed along with her as I started walking away. Where are you going? To get some ice cream, I grumbled. For your bruised ego? No. Did I hurt your feelings, Marky boy? I ignored her. I'm sorry, she called after me, still laughing. Mark, I'm sorry. I kept my back to her, but smiled to myself as she yelled her apologies at me. She could feel sorry a little longer for what she did to my superhero level attractive face. Would you bring me would going back to football game and slapping butts help? She yelled at the top of her lungs, making sure anyone in a 5-mile radius could hear her. I sighed. That's what I'm going to be stuck with for the rest of my life. After a moment, I smiled. Bring it on. And that is the end of today's episode. I love this story. It's so cute and I love it. But anyway, there is only one more chapter left, so be prepared for that. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Goodbye, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.